gather. As Scipio glanced at the school books again, a sparkle lurked in his bleached blue eye. "I can cipher some," he said, "but I expect I've got my own notions about spelling." "I retain a few private ideas that way myself," remarked the Virginian, innocently, and Scipio's sparkle gathered light. "As to my geography," he pursued, "that's away out loose in the brush. Is Bennington the capital of Vermont? And how do you spell bridegroom?" "Last point," shouted the Virginian, letting a book fly after him. "Don't let badness and goodness worry yu', for you'll never be a judge of them." But Scipio had dodged the book and was gone. As he went his way, he said to himself, "All the same, it must pay to fall regular in love." At the bunk house that afternoon it was observed that he was unusually silent. His exit from the foreman's cabin had let in a breath of winter so chill that the Virginian went to see his thermometer, a Christmas present from Mrs. Henry. It registered 20 below zero. After reviving the fire to a white blaze, the foreman sat thinking over the story of Shorty, what its useless, feeble past had been, what would be its useless, feeble future. He shook his head over the somber question, was there any way out for Shorty? "It may be," he reflected, "that them whose pleasure brings yu' into this world owes yu' a living, but that don't make the world responsible. The world did not beget you. I reckon man helps them that help themselves. As for the universe, it looks like it did too wholesale a business to turn out an article up to standard every clip. Yes, it is sorrowful, for Shorty is kind to his hoss." In the evening the Virginian brought Shorty into his room. He usually knew what he had to say, usually found it easy to arrange his thoughts, and after such arranging the words came of themselves. But as he looked at Shorty, this did not happen to him. There was not a line of badness in the face, yet also there was not a line of strength, no promise in eye or nose or chin. The whole thing melted to a stubby, featureless mediocrity. It was a countenance like thousands, and hopelessness filled the Virginian as he looked at this lost dog, and his dull, wistful eyes. But some beginning must be made. "I wonder what the thermometer's got to be," he said. "You can see it if you'll hold the lamp to that right side of the window." Shorty held the lamp. "I never used any," he said, looking out at the instrument nevertheless. The Virginian had forgotten that Shorty could not read. So he looked out of the window himself, and found that it was 22 below zero. "This is pretty good tobacco," he remarked, and Shorty helped himself and filled his pipe. "I had to rub my left ear with snow to day," said he. "I was just in time." "I thought it looked pretty freezy out where you was riding," said the foreman. The lost dog's eyes showed plain astonishment. "We didn't see you out there," said he. "Well," said the foreman, "it'll soon not be freezing any more, and then we'll all be warm enough with work. Everybody will be working all over the range. And I wish I knew somebody that had a lot of stable work to be attended to. I certainly do, for your sake." "Why?" said Shorty. "Because it's the right kind of a job for you." "I can make more," began Shorty, and stopped. "There is a time coming," said the Virginian, "when I'll want somebody that knows how to get the friendship of hosses. I'll want him to handle some special hosses the Judge has plans about. Judge Henry would pay 50 a month for that." "I can make more," said Shorty, this time with stubbornness. "Well, yes, sometimes a man can, when he's not worth it, I mean. But it don't generally last." Shorty was silent. "I used to make more myself," said the Virginian. "You're making a lot more now," said Shorty. "Oh, yes. But I mean when I was fooling around the earth, jumping from job to job, and helling all over town between whiles. I was not worth 50 a month then, nor 25, but there was nights I made a heap more at cyards." Shorty's eyes grew large. "And then, bang, it was gone with treating the men and the girls." "I don't always," said Shorty, and stopped again. The Virginian knew that he was thinking about the money he sent East. "After a while," he continued, "I noticed a right strange fact. The money I made easy that I wasn't worth, it went like it came. I strained myself none getting or spending it. But the money I made hard that I was worth, why, I began to feel right careful about that. And now I have got savings stowed away. If once you could know how good that feels." "So I would know," said Shorty, "with your luck." "What's my luck?" said the Virginian, sternly. "Well, if I had took up land along a creek that never goes dry, and proved upon it like you have, and if I had saw that land raise its value on me, with me lifting no finger—" "Why did you lift no finger?" cut in the Virginian. "Who stopped you taking up land? Did it not stretch in front of you, behind you, all around you, the biggest, baldest opportunity in sight? That was the time I lifted my finger, but you didn't." Shorty stood stubborn. "But never mind that," said the Virginian. "Take my land away to morrow, and I'd still have my savings in bank. Because, you see, I had to work right hard gathering them in. I found out what I could do, and I settled down and did it. Now you can do that too. The only tough part is the finding out what you're good for. And for you, that is found. If you'll just decide to work at this thing you can do, and gentle those hosses for the judge, you'll be having savings in a bank yourself." "I can make more," said the lost dog. The Virginian was on the point of saying, "Then get out." But instead, he spoke kindness to the end. "The weather's freezing yet," he said, "and it will be for a good long while. Take your time, and tell me if you change your mind." After that Shorty returned to the bunk house, and the Virginian knew that the boy had learned his lesson of discontent from Trampas with a thoroughness past all unteaching. This petty triumph of evil seemed scarce of the size to count as any victory over the Virginian. But all men grasp at straws. Since that first moment when in the Medicine Bow saloon the Virginian had shut the mouth of Trampas by a word, the man had been trying to get even without risk, and at each successive clash of his weapon with the Virginian's he had merely met another public humiliation. Therefore, now at the Sunk Creek Ranch in these cold white days, a certain lurking insolence in his gait showed plainly his opinion that by disaffecting Shorty he had made some sort of reprisal. Yes, he had poisoned the lost dog. In the springtime, when the neighboring ranches needed additional hands, it happened as the Virginian had foreseen. Trampas departed to a "better job," as he took pains to say, and with him the docile Shorty rode away upon his horse Pedro. Love now was not any longer snowbound. The mountain trails were open enough for the sure feet of Love's steed, that horse called Monte. But duty blocked the path of Love. Instead of turning his face to Bear Creek, the foreman had other journeys to make, full of heavy work and watchfulness and counsels with the judge. The cattle thieves were growing bold, and winter had scattered the cattle widely over the range. Therefore the Virginian, instead of going to see her, wrote a letter to his sweetheart. It was his first. End of chapter 23. Chapter 24. A Letter with a Moral. The letter which the Virginian wrote to Molly Wood was, as has been stated, the first that he had ever addressed to her. I think perhaps he may have been a little shy as to his skill in the epistolary art, a little anxious lest any sustained production from his pen might contain blunders that would too staringly remind her of his scant learning. He could turn off a business communication about